Mahesh Sharma, Sunita Sharma, and their daughter Riya lived in a quiet Kanpur neighborhood, but behind their peaceful reputation was a tension that would soon erupt into a crime the city would never forget. When Riya's secret relationship with Arjun Malhotra, her father's respected boss, came to light, a chain of emotions began to spiral out of control. What started as suspicion quickly turned into obsession, and obsession soon transformed into a deadly plan fueled by fear, pride, and the crushing weight of family honor. As the truth unraveled, each decision made inside the Sharma household pushed them further toward a tragedy that would expose the dangerous power of silence, control, and the desperate need to protect a reputation at any cost. The Sharma family lived in a modest two-story house in a quiet Kanpur neighborhood where people greeted each other politely but rarely interfered in anyone's personal life. Mahesh Sharma was known as a strict, disciplined man who believed strongly in routine. Every morning he left for his job at the textile firm at the same exact time, wearing the same expression of seriousness that defined him. His wife, Sunita, spent her days maintaining the house with the precision of someone who feared things falling out of order. Their daughter, Riya, brought a softer energy into the home, but even she adjusted her behavior to avoid disrupting the rigid atmosphere her parents had created. The family's life appeared peaceful to outsiders. Their neighbors often described them as respectable and well-organized, unaware of the tension hidden behind closed doors. Mahesh held conservative values and expected his family to follow them without question. Sunita supported everything he said, partly out of loyalty and partly because she had been raised with the same expectations. Riya grew up absorbing these rules, learning when to stay silent and when to follow instructions, even when she disagreed. As she reached adulthood, Riya's world expanded beyond the boundaries her parents set. College gave her new experiences, new friends, and a sense of independence she had never felt before. She enjoyed exploring ideas her family never discussed, and she began imagining a life where decisions were based on her own dreams instead of her parents' fears. Yet she always felt the weight of her family's expectations pulling her back. Mahesh noticed her growing distance, though Riya never rebelled openly. His fear of losing control increased quietly, creating a gap that none of them addressed. What looked like a disciplined family from the outside was actually a fragile structure held together by silence, routine, and hidden pressure. Unknown to them, this silent strain was the beginning of a much. During her internship at her father's company, Riya stepped into an environment completely different from her controlled home life. The office was busy, filled with conversations, ideas, and people who treated her like an independent adult. For the first time, she felt her opinions mattered. It was during this period that she met Arjun Malhotra, the newly appointed regional director. Arjun carried a calm confidence that made people trust him instantly. He often visited training sessions where interns worked, offering guidance and encouragement. His attention toward Riya began casually, sparked by her dedication and curiosity. Arjun noticed that she worked harder than most and rarely asked for help, as if she was afraid of disappointing someone. He gave her small assignments to strengthen her skills and always reminded her that improvement came from learning, not perfection. Riya felt valued in a way she had never experienced, and these interactions gradually became the highlight of her days. She admired his professionalism, while Arjun appreciated her sincerity and willingness to grow. As weeks passed, their connection deepened quietly. They started exchanging brief messages about work, which slowly turned into personal conversations. Arjun never suspected that Riya was hiding these interactions, nor did he realize how much fear she carried about her family's reaction. To him, she was simply a young woman discovering herself. To her, he represented a world she longed to be part of, one where choices were made with confidence instead of fear. Although she knew her father's strict mindset, Riya allowed herself to believe that love could change everything. She imagined a future where her parents would accept her decision, thinking that her happiness would matter to them. She never considered the possibility that Mahesh might see the relationship not as a harmless connection but as a personal insult. The bond between Riya and Arjun continued to grow, unnoticed by. Mahesh had always been observant, especially when it came to his daughter. He rarely showed warmth, but he noticed every detail, every change in routine, every shift in mood, every silence that lingered too long. When Rhea began returning home slightly later than usual after her internship sessions, he felt something was different. She moved with a quiet excitement he couldn't explain, and although she tried to act normal, her attempts only increased his suspicion. Still, he trusted the structured environment of his workplace and never imagined the truth was unfolding right under his nose. Everything shifted the day Arjun casually praised Rhea during a staff meeting. His comment was simple, yet the tone held a familiarity that alarmed Mahesh. He pushed the thought aside, telling himself he was overreacting. But once doubt settles in a mind like his, it grows quickly. He began watching her more closely, her behavior at home, her expressions when her phone buzzed, the way she disappeared into her room a little too quickly. The turning point came late one evening when Rhea left her phone on the dining table while helping Sunita in the kitchen. A notification appeared on the screen displaying Arjun's name along with a short, affectionate message. Mahesh didn't need to read more. The moment he saw the name, everything inside him hardened. To him, this was a betrayal layered with humiliation. His daughter had crossed a boundary he believed she had no right to cross, and worst of all, she had done it with his superior, someone he respected professionally but never imagined as a part of his family life. Shock quickly turned to anger, and anger fueled a sense of wounded pride. He imagined how colleagues might react if they learned about the relationship. In his mind, the situation was no longer about Rhea's feelings but about the damage this truth could bring to his reputation. When Sunita learned what Mahesh had discovered, she was shaken but stood with him, fearing the so. The days following the discovery became a silent punishment for Rhea. Nothing was said to her directly, yet everything around her changed. Her phone disappeared from her room, taken without explanation. Her parents stopped allowing her to attend college regularly, saying she needed to focus on family matters. Every movement she made was observed, every action questioned through cold glances rather than words. The calm routine of the house transformed into a tense space where even breathing felt monitored. Rhea quickly realized her secret was no longer a secret. The sudden restrictions, the forced silence, and the heavy atmosphere left no doubt. What frightened her most was not the loss of freedom but the way her parents behaved as if she no longer existed as an individual. They didn't shout or confront her. Instead, they treated her like someone whose decisions could no longer be trusted. This quiet control was far more suffocating than any open conflict. At meals, Sunita placed food on her plate without making eye contact. Mahesh rarely spoke, but his presence alone felt like a warning. Their silence was meant to break her spirit, a calculated pressure meant to remind her of the rules she had violated. Rhea tried to remain calm, hoping they would eventually talk to her and allow her to explain, but the days passed with the same cold routine. Outside the walls of the house, Arjun grew increasingly concerned. His messages remained unread, and his calls went unanswered. He convinced himself she must be busy or overwhelmed, unaware that her access to the outside world had been completely cut off. Inside the home, Rhea felt trapped inside an invisible cage. She knew her family cared deeply about reputation, but she never imagined that the fear of social judgment would turn into such intense isolation. Each day tightened the emotional grip her parents had placed on her, pushing her further into helplessness. She sensed that something darker was forming in the back. Mahesh's anger did not fade with time. Instead, it settled into him like something permanent, shaping every thought he had. He spent his days at work distracted, replaying the discovery in his mind. The idea that his daughter had formed a relationship with his superior felt like a personal attack he could not escape. He imagined whispers behind his back, imagined colleagues questioning his authority, imagined relatives mocking him for losing control of his own household. These fears grew stronger than reason. Sunita noticed the changes in him. He barely slept, pacing the house late into the night, staring at nothing with a hardened expression. She tried to calm him, but her words lacked conviction. She too feared what people would say if the truth came out. The possibility of becoming a topic for gossip within their extended family terrified her. Slowly, instead of challenging Mahesh's anger, she began echoing his fears. Together, they convinced themselves that Riya's choices threatened the entire family's honor, and that honor had to be protected at any cost. The decision they reached did not come in one dramatic moment. It formed gradually, shaped by shared anxiety, frustration, and cultural pressure. They stopped thinking of Riya as their daughter with hopes and dreams, and instead saw her as the cause of their imagined humiliation. This distorted perception allowed them to consider actions they once would have found unthinkable. Riya sensed the shift. She noticed relatives visiting at odd hours, whispering with her parents behind closed doors. She heard footsteps at night, quiet but purposeful. Every instinct told her something was wrong, but she had no way to reach anyone outside the home. The isolation had drained her strength, leaving her unsure of how to escape or whom she could trust. Mahesh, driven by wounded pride, convinced himself he was making the right decision for the family. Sunita, torn between fear and maternal instinct, chose to remain by his. The night everything changed arrived without warning. A heavy monsoon air wrapped around the house, creating a strange stillness that made every sound sharper. Riya went to bed earlier than usual, drained by the long days of silence and isolation. She sensed danger but had no clear understanding of what her parents were planning. Her room, once a space of comfort, now felt like an unfamiliar corner where she waited for something she couldn't name. Mahesh and Sunita moved through the house with a cold efficiency that came from days of internal preparation. They didn't speak, they didn't need to. Each step they took was driven by a mindset that had slowly hardened into certainty. Mahesh felt he had reached a point where action was the only solution left. Sunita followed along, numb and disconnected, allowing fear and loyalty to guide her actions. In the quiet hours before dawn, the plan was carried out within the house. Everything happened behind closed doors, hidden from neighbors who slept peacefully without any idea of what was unfolding next door. There were no loud noises, no chaos, only a chilling calmness that made the crime even more disturbing. When it was over, the house felt eerily still. Mahesh and Sunita moved mechanically, cleaning the surroundings and creating a narrative they believed would protect them. They prepared an explanation involving a sudden health emergency, hoping it would distract from the truth. They wiped away traces, rearranged items, and rehearsed their expressions, convinced they had covered every detail. As dawn broke, the family that once appeared disciplined and respectable now stood at the center of a devastating secret. The parents believed they had restored their honor, unaware that the inconsistencies they left behind would soon begin unraveling their entire story and ignite a full-scale investigation. The following morning, the Sharma family arrived at the local hospital with a carefully crafted story. Mahesh explained that Riya had collapsed suddenly, hoping the staff would accept the narrative without inspection. But trained professionals immediately noticed inconsistencies between the parents' claims and the physical condition Riya had been brought in. Their concern grew quickly, prompting them to alert authorities before releasing the body. When the police arrived, they interviewed Mahesh and Sunita separately. Their statements did not align, and the officers detected hesitation and uncertainty in their explanations. The inconsistencies, combined with the hospital's suspicion, led investigators to request a post-mortem. The examination uncovered signs that directly contradicted the story of a natural death. This evidence shifted the case from a medical mystery to a suspected homicide. Arjun was contacted after his number appeared repeatedly in Riya's phone records. He arrived shaken, unable to understand how things had escalated so suddenly. His testimony revealed the existence of a relationship the parents had tried to erase from the narrative. Investigators now had a motive, one rooted in fear of social shame. Relatives were questioned next, and although they tried to protect Mahesh, their stories revealed that they had been at the house the night before. Their vague answers hinted at planning rather than shock, strengthening the suspicions surrounding the parents' actions. The police pieced together the timeline, comparing forensic evidence, witness statements, and digital records. With the emerging details, the investigation took a decisive turn. Officers returned to the home, searching every room for hidden clues. Small traces the parents had missed, misplaced objects, smudged areas, and unusual gaps in the home's routine, helped reconstruct the truth. As evidence mounted, the emotional mask worn by Mahesh and Sunita began to crumble. Their attempt to. The court proceedings lasted several months and drew widespread attention. Each hearing revealed new details about the control, fear, and pressure inside the Sharma household. Prosecutors presented the series of events as a planned crime fueled by pride, while the defense tried to argue emotional distress. However, the evidence, including the post-mortem report and the parents' contradictory statements, made the case clear. Eventually, the court handed down long-term prison sentences to both Mahesh and Sunita. The judgment marked the collapse of a family name that once stood for strict tradition and discipline. Arjun struggled to move forward. He replayed memories of Riya and wondered if he could have noticed the danger sooner. He blamed himself for not pushing harder when she suddenly stopped responding. Over time, his grief transformed into a determination to speak out. He began participating in awareness programs addressing honor-based violence, hoping that sharing Riya's story could prevent similar tragedies. The neighborhood where the Sharma family once lived continued to talk about the case for years. People questioned how a fear of social judgment could escalate into something so extreme. Many parents started reflecting on the pressures they placed on their children, realizing how easily control could slip into harm. Riya's story became a symbol of innocence destroyed by the weight of tradition. Her dreams of independence, once so close to becoming reality, were remembered by classmates and teachers who had seen her potential. Her absence created a silence that left lasting guilt and remorse in the community. In the end, the tragedy served as a reminder of the dangers hidden behind seemingly ordinary households. It highlighted how silence, rigid expectations, and the desire to protect reputation can spiral into irreversible outcomes. Riya's lost future remained a painful reflection of lives still caught in similar chains.